Continuing to contain COVID, we will also continue to work to open up Texas.
Today, Governor Greg Abbott takes another step in reopening Texas. Why his announcement, though, is not sitting well with local bar owners. A Bexar County deputy dishonorably discharged from the force. What he's accused of doing that cost him his job. A big day for City Council with the passing of the 2021 budget. What local activists have been calling for that didn't make the cut.
And we've got some activity on radar again this afternoon. You'll have a chance of a shower or storm through about sunset today. Looking ahead to the weekend and next week, a lot of questions about what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico. We'll talk about it all coming up.
Before you eat your fruits and veggies, we'll look at which ones have the highest risk of pesticide residue. The news at 5 starts right now.
There are some Texans who want to fully open Texas 100% as if COVID no longer is a threat. The fact is COVID does still exist and most Texans remain susceptible.
Taking strategic steps to reopen the state. That's how Governor Greg Abbott described new guidelines for reopening Texas. We first brought you the announcement on the news at noon.
Starting Monday, September 21st, areas where COVID-19 hospitalizations are less than 15% can increase capacity from 50% to 75% in retail stores, restaurants, office buildings, manufacturing, museums and libraries, and gyms.
Hospitals can now resume elective surgeries starting Thursday, September 24th as well. Nursing homes, assisted living centers, state-supported living centers, and other long-term care facilities can reopen for visitation as long as there are no COVID-19 outbreaks there.
One industry the governor is not loosening restrictions on, the bar industry. He said bars are known nationally to be, in his words, COVID-spreading locations. A statement bar owners vigorously dispute.
Jesse Degollado says their reaction to the governor's decision isn't so surprising.
It's devastating. We don't know what to do next.
Big Hops, the once popular Northside beer pub, only does beer to go now for a few hours on Friday and Saturday. Yet Governor Abbott announcing today that restaurants can now expand to 75% capacity.
I mean, that's hard to swallow. And then we're not going to help you either.
No remedy has been offered to help compensate for 5 months of no revenue, he says, and he's not alone.
People are going out of business. They're selling all their businesses. Or they're just straight bankrupt and having to give it over to the landlords.
Rents are overdue, he says, as well as payments to vendors.
They all say they're sorry to hear about it. It's terrible news. But that's usually where the conversations end, and then here's the invoice.
Big Hops wasn't able to pivot the way Lucy Cooper's did in order to remain open to some extent.
Not only were we a bar, but we were a bar that had this really good food.
Yet Smith says she believes keeping bars closed is unfair.
Governor Abbott is still vilifying one sector of industry as opposed to all these others.
She says people's livelihoods are at stake.
We have over 700,000 service industry employees in the state of Texas still unemployed, and as of Abbott's order today, just lost any inkling of hope on how they're going to make it.
Jesse Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
We are getting a first look at a 25-year-old man wanted in connection with a shooting of his sister yesterday. This is Fabian Rene Arredondo. He's accused of shooting his sister at a home in the 1300 block of Mission Grande. We brought you this story first on the news at 5 yesterday. Arredondo is wanted for aggravated assault with serious bodily injury. If you have any information, though, on his whereabouts, call SAPD at 210-207-7273.
New at 5, a Bexar County Sheriff's deputy arrested and dishonorably discharged today. The Sheriff's Office says 25-year-old Andre Winston had a warrant for his arrest stemming from an off-duty incident in September of 2018. The warrant was discovered today during an audit of employees suspected of criminal misconduct. He's charged with interference with an emergency telephone call. SAPD is handling that case. In a statement, Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar says in part, quote, "This former employee has to face his legal issues on his own and won't be doing that as a member of this agency. He is not eligible for rehire under any circumstances. This agency will continue to take a strong stance on domestic violence issues, whether in the community or within our own ranks." End quote. Winston had been with the sheriff's office since July of 2017.
We're learning more about the deputies who struggled with Damian Daniels before shooting and killing the combat veteran outside of his West Side home last month. Personnel records reveal that Deputy John Rodriguez was suspended in September of 2013, months after being arrested for family violence. He admitted to throwing an iPad in the direction of his wife and breaking 2 coffee tables and a TV. 2 years prior, in October 2011, a Bexar County grand jury cleared Rodriguez of any misconduct regarding the 2010 shooting death of suspect Jack Butler. A performance review of Deputy Michelle Garifa questioned her credibility and professionalism early in her career while she was working as a detention office. The evaluation says she, quote, fails to recognize that fraternizing with inmates is a safety and security issue. And she, quote, alludes to cooperation but leans more to deception or blurring of the truth, end quote. Yesterday, we told you about Sheriff Javier Salazar fighting to withhold body camera footage from the day that Daniels was killed, despite pledging transparency after Daniels' death. Salazar now says he is seeking guidance from the state attorney general's office before any footage is released. You can find this story on KSAT.com.
2 Balcones Heights police officers on administrative leave after a man was shot in the leg this morning. It happened in the parking lot of the Spanish Keys Apartments on Babcock Road and Hillcrest Drive. Officers called to the complex around 7 over a report of a suspicious man making threats with what looked like a gun. Balcones Heights Police Chief John Jahanera says when officers arrived, the suspect wedged himself between 2 vehicles, refused to put his hands up when ordered. When he reached for what turned out to be a makeshift piece of pipe, the officers fired 5 rounds, hitting the suspect in the knee. He was taken to the hospital in stable condition. The department currently reviewing body cam footage.
A 67-year-old man arrested this morning after he shot a man in West Bexar County. It happened around 7:30 in the 12,300 block of Carlson Valley. The sheriff's office says the victim was standing in his front yard when the suspect went up to him and shot him. That suspect took off running to his house around the corner. He was arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. That victim is okay. Months after a man was found dead on the east side, a 36-year-old woman is now behind bars. Mary Diaz has been charged with murder in connection with the shooting death of Christopher Jones.
His body found in a home on Susanwood Drive near South W.W. White in East Houston back in February. The medical examiner believes he died a month before that. Witnesses told police Diaz admitted to killing Jones after she found pictures on his phone that she didn't like.
San Antonio City Council unanimously passing a $2.9 billion budget for the next fiscal year starting in October. And it includes a bump in the police budget. Over the last 3 months, activists have been calling to defund the police. However, SAPD's $486.5 million budget includes a more than $7 million increase over this year, largely because of a scheduled pay increase for officers and increased health care costs. Numerous people calling in today voicing their disappointment.
We all understand that budgets are moral documents, and the reality is the biggest piece of the pie, that is the budget, goes to law enforcement, and law enforcement, as we've seen countless times, continues to abuse our community, and especially Black people in this community.
City staff have said that most of the police budget is connected to the union contract, which is up for negotiation next year. Officials have also talked about plans to review the department's functions and possible alternatives.
Council members also approved a new funding plan for the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program. That popular program has been funded for the past 20 years through part of a 1/8 cent sales tax. But the tax expected to expire next year. City and VIA officials have put different uses for it onto November's ballot. So the council has agreed on a plan to mostly borrow $100 million over 10 years to keep the program going. Mayor Ron Nirenberg says it's a way to protect the aquifer while still funding his workforce development plan.
We cannot abandon our neighbors who need help. That would be callous and inhumane. San Antonio is better than that. Fortunately, we aren't choosing between the aquifer and our neighbors. We can address the needs of both.
District 1's Roberto Trevino and District 10's Clayton Perry, the only ones who voted against the plan. They tried unsuccessfully to delay a vote until after the November election.
Outside with live cam, if you look in the corner of your screen, 73 degrees at the airport. We've got some rain moving through San Antonio and Bexar County this afternoon. A welcome sight, that is for sure. And we're going to take a look at radar shortly. But first, checking in with our weather watchers. 81 in Kerrville, 73 in Schertz. We do have some 70s on the board here. Some of our weather watchers have called in this afternoon after receiving a little bit of rain. The more widespread activity is down to the south of Highway 90. We'll zoom in closer to the city here. We've got some nice downpours moving through. You may be hearing some rumbles of thunder, but there's no severe weather out there. That is some really good news. These are just some nice, healthy downpours, generally moving to the south across the area. Some rain approaching Uvalde there in Uvalde County. And again, the more widespread rain is down to the south, LaSalle and McMullen counties. Another closer look at the showers moving through and a look at what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico. Things are going to get interesting. That's coming up in just a few minutes, guys.
More interesting.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Katie. Vote in person or vote by mail. It's a question both presidential campaigns know is on the minds of American voters during this coronavirus pandemic. And their concern is that some people may not participate at all.
Daryl Forges is at the White House with a look at how the campaigns are trying to drive turnout in the home stretch of the campaign.
The coronavirus pandemic has fueled a huge shift in the voting process in just a few months. You can still show up on Election Day, but nearly every state has expanded mail-in balloting. President Donald Trump stoking skepticism about that, most recently falsely claiming that millions of unsolicited ballots will be sent out this election. Unable to be tracked and even doubting mail-in ballots that are requested by voters.
The most foolproof thing, the thing that really works, is you go to the ballot box.
Only a handful of states automatically send ballots to all registered voters. But the president and his allies are eager for a clear decision on election night. State and local election officials, especially those expecting a tight race, are preparing Americans for an extended vote count because of the volume of mail-in ballots. Longer, they say, does not mean less accurate.
We can say with certainty that the results of our elections will be an accurate reflection of the will of the people this year.
But Democrats are becoming more concerned that attacks on mail-in voting and also bipartisan concerns about the Postal Service may stick in the minds of voters. The message now shifting toward vote whatever way you can.
We have got to grab our comfortable shoes, put on our masks, pack a brown bag dinner, and maybe breakfast too.
Or vote early if you can, as Joe Biden and his wife Jill did in person for Delaware's primary this week. And over 17.8 million mail-in ballots have been requested. And so far, when it comes to the majority of those mail-in ballots, Democrats lead that charge. Live at the White House, Daryl Forges. Steve, back to you.
Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate it. Fruits and veggies, they're good for you, but some can hold on to lingering pesticides. So the next time you're out shopping, you might want to get a little picky. Up next, we're going to break down the best practices for picking produce. New at 5, pesticides and the food you eat. Fruits and vegetables, some of the healthiest foods we can eat, but they can come with pesticide residue, some more than others. 12 on your side's Marilyn Moritz with which ones are safest and which ones you may want to buy organic.
You know fruits and veggies are good for you, but before you pick your produce, consider this. Consumer Reports analyzed 5 years of government data on tests of produce and pesticides.
A lot of times, even when pesticides are found on produce, the levels aren't worrisome. But in a few cases, our experts did find that the amounts exceeded what we consider to be safe.
Industry groups say pesticide residue on food does not pose a risk, but some research has linked long-term low-level exposure to cognitive development, ADHD, and even cancer. The solution isn't to eat less fresh produce. Most people already don't get enough, but to make smart choices. So, apples to zucchini. Consumer Reports rated 35 fruits and veggies for pesticide risk.
We broke down our ratings ranging from excellent all the way to poor. We recommend you try to buy fruits and vegetables that are rated excellent, very good, or good.
A lot of non-organic produce fell into those categories, like broccoli, carrots, tomatoes, sweet potatoes, and onion. But others got poor scores. Among the worst, fresh green beans, potatoes, fresh spinach, and peaches. For those, Consumer Reports recommends you buy organic if possible, especially for pregnant women and young children. Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
Well, that was quite a thunderstorm we had right here at the station.
Yeah, I looked outside and I'd been all in my computer and hadn't even looked outside. Nice and rainy out there.
It was nice.
Good to see it. Good to see it. And we'll carry a chance of a scattered to isolated thunder shower through about sunset this evening. So here's how the next few hours look out there. And keep in mind, I've dropped our temperatures here in San Antonio into the 70s. We could bounce back up into the low 80s very briefly, but do keep in mind your temperatures here will be dependent on if you've seen rain already this afternoon. But a nice scattering of some showers and non-severe thunderstorms. That's the key. If you hear some rumbles of thunder, don't be alarmed. We're not expecting any severe weather today, just some nice healthy rainfall. Again, maybe a few rumbles of thunder, some brief gusty winds, but nothing too crazy. We've got a nice healthy cell here in southern Bexar County, all the way from 410 through Von Ormy, even down into Lytle. There, some showers back up closer to Alamo Heights and the airport, and even on the far west side over to Leon Valley, even a little bit of a shower up there closer to Stone Oak. Up in the hill country, a couple of thunder showers continue to move down to the south there. Uvalde, you've got a nice healthy thunderstorm cell dropping down 83, about to run into town here. And if you'll notice, you see these thin green lines. A lot of these thunder showers, as they kind of weaken, they're putting out outflow boundaries. So we're going to have those outflow boundaries dancing around. And as those bump into each other over the next couple of hours, they could trigger some more thunderstorm development. So again, as long as we kind of have the heat of the day, the sun is up, and we've got those outflow boundaries around, some scattered to isolated non-severe storms will be possible. Some nice, healthy or widespread rainfall from 35 Cotulla all the way over closer to 281 there. That's some nice drought-busting rain, and we will for sure take it. Also a good amount of shower activity down closer to the coast. So soak in the rain this evening, because tomorrow our rain chances start to drop off. I can't rule out a spotty afternoon storm, but definitely not as much rain around tomorrow as what we're seeing today. And then this weekend, rain-free, but really nice. We're going to have a nice drop in humidity this weekend. It'll be warm in the afternoons, but our mornings will be in the 60s with that drier air in place. Really not looking too bad at all. And keep in mind, cloud cover this evening also kind of dependent on how much rain you've seen. It looks like we're getting a lot of this high cloud cover to build back in, so that could keep things mostly cloudy for us for the rest of the day. So what's going on? We've got a nice piece of upper level energy that has dropped down into southwest Texas, helping to produce some lift on the east side right over us here in South Texas. And that spells the scattering of rain we've got out there this evening. As we get into tomorrow and the weekend, that's going to wash out, weaken, and move out into the Gulf of Mexico. And that could actually play a part in the movement of this area that I've kind of highlighted right here for you in the far southern Gulf of Mexico. This is an area of shower and thunderstorm activity that the Hurricane Center has flagged as having high odds of becoming at least our next tropical depression within the next 2 to 5 days. 90% chance of that happening. We're just waiting for this to potentially be pegged as our next tropical depression or tropical storm. That could happen today. That could happen tomorrow. We'll let you know here. Regardless, this is going to move very slowly this weekend and early next week to the north. Beyond that, models are suggesting a gradual turn to the west, but there is still a lot of uncertainty with this system, mainly because it doesn't even have a center of circulation yet. So we're going to be watching this closely over the next couple of days to see what it could mean for our weather. As far as overall confidence goes, it is pretty low here in a lot of respects. Location-wise, we do expect it to drift north toward the southern Texas coast by early next week. So that's kind of what we feel best about. Everything else, how strong will it be? Will it have a name? When could it affect us? And what does it mean for our rain chances? All that confidence-wise, still fairly low at this time, but we'll know more over the next couple of days, and we'll keep you updated. In the meantime, tomorrow, 88 your high temperature. Not as much rain around tomorrow, but a good-looking weekend coming up. Enjoy it. And again, keep in mind early next week, those rain chances dependent on what happens in the Gulf. Guys.
A lot to watch. Thank you, Katie.
All right, it is the big call that Cowboy fans are still questioning, Greg.
1 second, you think you set your team up to at least tie the game or possibly win it. The next second, the game is pretty much over. When we come back, has Michael Gallup moved on from that terrible call? Most Cowboy fans feel it's a terrible call. And SAFC is headed to the playoffs. Coming up.
Pro football coverage, powered by Davis Law Firm.
The Dallas Cowboys are now preparing for their home opener against the Atlanta Falcons, who, like the Cowboys, lost their season opener against the Seattle Seahawks 38-25, which was their home opener. Now this is the Falcons' first road game where the Cowboys are favored by 4.5 points. They're losing to the Rams 20-17. But one of the pressing questions, has Michael Gallup moved past his offensive pass interference call in the closing seconds and cost the Cowboys a chance to tie or even win the game in the fourth quarter? Gallup was called for pushing off, and Jalen Ramsey sold it bit by flopping back. Michael was asked if he had done anything differently and how long did it take for him to get past this call.
Honestly, I guess just beat him a little bit more at the line so we're not play fighting down the field for a good 10 yards. That's the best I can put it. I just try to get my hand free, look like I pushed off, so it is what it is. You're going to see it all throughout the weekend. You know, a couple days afterwards, somebody's going to hit you up about it. But, I mean, it is what it is. Should be used to it by now. Play for the Dallas Cowboys.
And kickoff between the Cowboys and the Falcons. The maximum of 20,000 fans in the stands on Sunday is set for high noon. When it comes to the Houston Texans, it would be hard-pressed to find a tougher opponent for your home opener in a stadium that will not have any fans or support due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Baltimore is proving why they're a favorite for the Super Bowl by dominating Cleveland in their season opener, 38-6, and now turn their attention to the Texans, who are having trouble protecting their star quarterback, Deshaun Watson. He was sacked 6 times, while the defense gave up 31 unanswered points to the Chiefs in their 34-20 loss.
We need to play better. We need to tackle better. We need to execute our assignments better. We need to, put them in more difficult third down situations than we did last week. We need to get off the field when we are on third down. You can't give up a 17 or 19 play drives, whatever that was. You have to play better defense all around.
All right, kickoff between the Texans and the Falcons on Sunday, except for 3:25 p.m. Congratulations to San Antonio FC. They have clinched a playoff spot in the United Soccer League postseason at a 3-2 win over Austin Bold FC last night at Toyota Field. This is the second time in franchise history San Antonio FC has clinched a playoff spot in the USL, thanks to goals from Luis Soligna, Christian Perrano, and Jose Gallegos in the very first minute of play, at the very 55th minute, and finally the 72nd minute, respectively. This is the first playoff spot for San Antonio FC since 2017, and it comes with 3 matches left in their regular season. They've been on a roll. They only have 1 loss the entire season so far, so I don't want to jinx them. Still got 3 games left.
That's great. And teams like the cheering squads, like the Crocketeers,
sure.
They have to be dying that they're not in the stadium.
Love to be there, I'm sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg.
You got it.
We'll be right back.
And then
showers and non-severe storms will keep pacing through this evening. If you're about to head out, you can grab the KSAT weather app. Make sure you have that and track radar on your phone. Enjoy it this evening, because tomorrow rain chances really start to fall off. Guys.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you for watching the News at 5.